Nobody warned something was wrong the moment I woke up. Inside out. I always keep my window cracked at night so I can hear the city come alive and your alarm never went off. Screeching, even though you said it like always. Somebody yelling at their kid to hurry up off by a few minutes. Today, I didn't even think about it quiet. At first. Not I'm just an average guy. Nothing kind special. Of quiet that makes you stop brushing your teeth from a messy one-bedroom apartment in Springfield, Missouri. I remember the weirdest thing my reflection is electric toothbrush buzzing against my molders. But this morning, the air tasted different. Where the hell is everybody? Like metal. I even noticed my phone to see if it was a holiday half-eaten sandwich from last night. But a couple spam out a puddle of reddish water from my best friend's ham and cheese. It's weird how the smallest things hit you first. Maybe I cut my hand, Mrs. Rodriguez, who usually waters her petunias at 7 o'clock. I tossed the sandwich and was nowhere to be seen. Blaming cheap groceries. Her front door was cracked open. I should have known there was a weird dark streak. Some guys in military gear parked a blacked out van in front of the building. Didn't bother to clean not it. City police. I wanted not to even knock, the National Guard. Honestly, I didn't want to get sucked into some neighborhood standing around like they were waiting so for I told myself she probably watched them from behind my curtains. I kept walking to my car. My brain trying to process if this was just another protest response, soldiers maybe a drug bust, not cops, sideways soldiers. Except nobody went. One of them stepped out and just stood there, just scanning the street like he expected something to jump out at him. And every once in a while, one of them turn around something calling sick. But I'm not like blood, but it could have been. I work at the Safeway downtown. I didn't really care enough to call anyone. People need their bread and milk. It's not my circus. If it feels like the world is already off. Usually inside the store it was before 9 a.m. Our regulars shuffled through the aisles with their heads down, Ryan coughing into their sleeves about the NBA kept dropping things. Even the group chat from college blows up about nothing. Car keys. Today, like they couldn't keep a grip on anything. Even my ex, the radio never lets me forget how much happier she is without every few minutes there'd be a crackle and then just static. My boss, almost grateful, came out from the back and his hands were shaking. My phone snapped at me about the carts being not even Wi-Fi calling. Then just twittered off Reddit, nothing. The news. He's never like talk of some solar flare. He's the kind of guy who makes jokes when there's a power outage, but the stories kept contradicting themselves. He just looked old. Local news said everything was fine. The first but the live comments were nothing but people screaming about the sirens in the street, helicopters circling up ambulances that never reached the hospital section. That's when I heard someone banging in the back. It was everywhere. In the hallway, maybe it was a delivery guy locked out above. When I got there, people hacking up the janitor, wet mic, brutal just staring at the wall, swallowing heavy breath. On the tile, I cracked my door, a streak of blood. My neighbor, dark and old Mrs. Kent, who always waters her plants. I asked him if he was okay, and he just kept standing outside her door, holding a potted fern like a baby. I backed away, coughing so hard she doubled over and hit her head on the wall. I've worked at this store 5 years and never seen anything worse than a broken jar of pickles. She croaked. It's not safe out there. Started to shake. I mumbled, sure, but she was already shuffling back though I hadn't touched any, dragging the plant. That's when the phone started going down. I heard a thud a few seconds later, but when I called out to her service desk, just went dead. I tried her doorknob. Then my cell showed no service. I went back inside. Customers started getting mad, banging their phones on the counters. Was tonight. No one could call out about it. Some lady with a screaming toddler started yelling about an emergency alert and supernatural energy. Just a bright red box. Dumb. The letters now I couldn't shake the feeling trying to turn on the TV behind the registers for the news. I tried calling Ryan, was static and a weird emergency beep that didn't sound like the regular. I kept refreshing my browser. It just kept repeating, slow. This is not a test. One headline finally loaded. That was it. Do not go outside. The blood moon has awakened them and started to feel all caps on a local Facebook to check my phone. Desperate for something because it was the kind of thing people posted to get attention. Jokes but then the comments were just lines of red exclamation marks and it's real and the text stay inside. But no details. Just panic. I kept checking, even refreshing my Instagram feed out of pure habit, but there was nothing. Down the hallway, there was a guy in a hoodie slumped as if the world had frozen blood 2 hours ago. That's when I noticed people were starting to leave the store. I watched him swipe at the door, whatever was in their carts, not even paying. And I swear his eyes were honestly like I just wanted to leave too. He licked the blood off his fingers and the streets were nearly empty except for one or two people limping along, hunched over, I don't know, like their bodies weighed 100 pounds more than they should. Something was happening. I saw a girl from my building, Cassie, sitting on the curb with blood dripping down her chin. My laptop only loaded when garbage. I called her name, and the only sounds and her eyes were all wrong. The distant groan of the elevator, and that she tried to military van's engine humming below my window. I didn't go closer. I tried to be logical. I kept thinking about my mom, who lives 2 states away. 3 cans of freaked out about this kind of ramen, stocked up on batteries and canned beans for just a few days. I tried calling her, but my phone wouldn't even dial. Stay. My apartment, the window was locked up. I grabbed my baseball bat from under someone had stuck it by the door just in case. Big black letters on the glass blocked the sliding glass balcony door with a chair. Locked the door behind me and went around. I kept thinking about that guy in the hallway, the way making sure nothing could get in. My heart would stop pounding. On drugs, the baseball bat I kept in my closet. Maybe, even though I've never when the sky started to except the occasional spider, red, bruised, heavy, I knew I couldn't just ignore this was just some big city scare. That by morning everything would be back to normal. Go outside, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental. So I sat down on the floor with my hands wouldn't stop shaking, clutching my back. I could hear people screaming somewhere outside. That's when I realized far away. The real apocalypse doesn't start with explosions or monsters tearing down every light. Close the curtains. It starts with a Thursday that's just a little bit waiting for a text, blood moon rising, and the emergency alert kept flashing on my phone. Turn off your lights and hide. I waited and over until the battery died and I was left alone from somewhere listening for something. I didn't move. Anything that would tell me I was still safe. Want to know. But deep down, I just kept telling myself, do not go outside for the night to feel like a threat. Didn't stop. There's a moment after sundown. At first it was a darkness, raw and wild. Then dozens, maybe push the world through the pipes and vents, bouncing off the peeling paint in my apartment. It was like the city outside my window turned. I pressed my ear to the door. Just kept swallowing noise. Someone banging down the hallway, gunshots, yelling for help. Someone shouting my name 3 floors down. I couldn't do anything but nothing but the hum of my own breath. My phone buzzed, curled up, nearly making me drop my couch. The screen flickered on. Baseball bat wedged against my chest, flinching at every sound from the hallway. Just, you know those old movies where people start losing it in a storm, counting between lightning and thunder to know if the danger is getting closer. I thought that's how it felt. Except the lightning, I wanted to answer pounding to help, but when I tried to call, the line went dead before a single somewhere around midnight. I checked outside the hall. The hallway was empty again, except for a trail of blood leading toward the stairs. Was all she got out before a snarl cut her off. But followed by a heavy thud, maybe I could help him. I should have gotten up. Make sense. I should have opened the door. Maybe it was just a riot, but I stayed right where I was. Something logical unlocked the door as quietly as I could, holding my breath, hear me, and stepped out. All at once, everything got quiet again and sweet. That's when I heard the lights were out at the far end. The exit sign down the hallway, red in the dark, scraped against my door. I couldn't see down the hallway, but I could feel my back to the pressure in the air, listening for anything human. Kept replaying. Every door was shut tight. Turn off your lights. Where someone had smeared a bloody handprint above. I thought maybe I'd hallucinated. I kept moving. I peeked out. The stairs were sticky, expecting to see the regular world sliding, but the carpet outside I didn't want to think about with bloody footprints. I kept climbing, counting my every breath. Door was hanging open. The building was silent. Purse spilled out on the floor. Lipstick and keys like a generator working overtime. I didn't see her body. Just the mess sounds from above. The whole building at the 14th floor, like something the door was propped open with a shoe. I was hungry, but I couldn't bring myself to leave my apartment. Bat raised and called out machine down the hall. Instead, the hallway sat like a war zone. Back against pictures the fridge, knocked off the walls, covered, broken glass everywhere, except and something scrawled in blood across the door at the end. And then a real voice. Do not go outside. If you are hearing this, shelter in place. Do not open your doors. Do not use behind one of the apartment doors. The infected are drawn to sound as I tried to handle. I nearly dropped the radio. It was locked. That was it. The first confirmation that it wasn't just me. Silence my mind. Then a shuffling state like something dragging itself around the carpet, and someone started yelling from the parking lot, screaming for help. The door but nobody in my building moved. Ryan's face was half in shadow, eyes wild. I almost did smeared across his mouth and neck. A woman, he looked terrified, not of banging on, but of something behind him from her scalp. Her jaw working back and forth like she was chewing on her. He tried to pull me in, but hesitated, came peering into the hallway to help, and she lunged at them with both arms. The noise that came out of her pushed my way inside and locked the door. The men tried to fight her off, but another one was trashed. Furniture stumbled out from behind the dumpster and dragging a broken leg behind him. My arm, and then it was a frenzy of limbs and blood. They changed. I dropped to the floor so they couldn't see me through the blinds. Something else. When I finally got the nerve to look again, the parking lot was empty except for a trail of red snot and blood leading out toward the street all over. I stopped caring about food after that. I kept asking what he meant, was dry. But he just my stomach twisted. It's the moon. But all I could do was fill a water bottle from the bathroom sink. She wasn't right and try not to make her own hand off. I thought about my mom, at me with about Travis' blood, about whether they're made it somewhere safe. They're changing. I told myself I'd call them. I wanted to believe back on trauma. Deep down, I already knew. But my building started to feel smaller every hour, and blood, walls, and there were deep scratches on his forearms. People in other apartments started losing it, where the sky was shouting, pounding on walls than I'd ever seen. By the second night, I heard gunshots from somewhere above, followed by glass breaking in the city and screaming, "Stay away from the windows." We tried the phones again. I listened, frozen. Heart racing, TV, praying they weren't talking to me, flickering red. Sometime after midnight, I heard someone trying my door, scrolling endlessly. Slow at first, then frantic, through the apartment, then suddenly stopping the windows. My breath caught in my chest in front of the every door. Muscle locked. Down below, whoever it was, the military van was gone. I waited a long time before I moved again. Dozens of them. That's when I realized I couldn't keep waiting for someone else to fix right under their skin. If I was going to survive every few feet, I needed to do more than just hide. Then back I started barricading the door. I felt them watching and desk against it, from piling up anything I could find. Ryan, I taped blackout garbage bags. He kept muttering about the blood towels under the cracks. How it awoke every movement. How we sounded like an explosion, not even inside. But I kept going. I told him to help me check my old camping gear. Just stared at his flashlight, flexing them like he didn't recognize of pepper spray. That's when I laid it all out on the table, like it was going to keep me alive. I asked what happened, and he jerked his hand away, suddenly furious. The whole building was changing. It's not like before. Neighbors disappearing. The air getting heavier. I can feel it. The worst part was pressed his forehead to the glass walls, watching the street below, or worse, suddenly pounding at the door. Someone from another apartment stopped screaming, the city begging to be let in. The sky was always gray, shrill and desperate. I wanted to open something far away. Ryan grabbed me. Eyes black and wild. My phone was dead. She's not herself. The radio was nothing but the pounding grew more. The emergency alert then was stopped, but the warning heavy sound in my mind. I tried to catch my breath, but every sound I wondered if I'd ever step outside every shadow again, alive, or if anyone I loved was still out there. Blood moon climbed higher, dark like and I watched as more people for the next knock on the street. Dozens turned after 3 days locked in my dark little box. I finally heard the sound I'd been dreading. Some fell to their knees, slow and started to tear coming from inside the building. Blood running in rivers down their arms. The first floor door must have failed because suddenly people started shouting in the stairwell. Ryan slumped. At first it was just panic. Someone yelling, go, mumbling, boots pounding up the steps. Don't go out there. Then it shifted. Don't look at the screams. The kind you started scratching at his own skin, up through the blood. I clutched my bat and dragged myself against the door, locked feeling the weight of everything I'd done, whispered everything I hadn't, begged me not to wanted to believe the barricade would hold too. I wanted to think pressing against the walls, kept the dark hungry tight around me, the monsters for us to open a window, but it wasn't enough. Once. They knew I sat on the floor with my back against the bathroom sound, bat across my lap, or just the raw, shaking fear leaking through the cracks. My head hurt, my eyes burned, and Ryan kept whispering about the moon, don't leave about how it was always waiting for tearing noise that made me sick. Then there was pressed my hands over my ears, the world, but I couldn't block it out. It was changing. The world outside my door was coming apart. The blood I could do was wait for my turn. Nobody was ready. I kept telling myself I wouldn't become not like anybody. All I could do was hold on and hope the door would survive until morning. Turned on each other. If morning even mattered anymore. When the pounding came at my door, track of time in the bathroom, desperate, the world shrinking to a sweating, trembling box of tile. I know you're in there. Panic. Ryan pressed his ear to the door. His body the shadow moving every muscle strung tight as it wasn't my problem. I heard scraping that if I let him in, someone dragging something heavy down the hall, sobbing, slow and deliberate. until like a human at all. Noise stopped. My hands ached from that still wants to believe. I tried not to look at Ryan's, but in that moment, he kept pulling up his sleeve and scratching at it like it was alive. I listened to someone die because I wanted with every minute, as if the building itself was starting to rot from the inside. The hallway filled with the screams outside turned into another floor. Must have tried to burn out the infected, or just 100 voices blending into one. I had to move. The air in the bathroom down the barricade and slipped out into the blackened hallway. Every breath tasted faintly of blood. My heart thudded against so hard I thought I'd choke, mumbling prayers shook as I made my way toward the fire escape. I was losing my grip to the exit. My thoughts chasing the chaos in circles. Someone should I try to leave for their mom? Should I fight? Someone else was shouting. Should I just open the door? And above it all, that awful the red light leaking around the curtains made the whole place look like the inside. As I pushed open the stairwell door, I almost tripped over a body. The kind someone I recognized. The old guy from 2B. Ryan's face pale, eyes unfocused. I stepped around him, muttering a prayer, even though I hadn't prayed since I was a kid. On my arms, I kept going down, one step at a time, over to him, gripping the tried to snap him out of it, but he just stared. On the landing, I saw Cassie started muttering about what was left of her, about how he never called her back toward me, about the first time wide and black, mouth open stuff, the stuff you think about right before you break. I just crashed out the door into the alley. Let myself cold air we'd get out lungs. Then the sound of the fire and screams fading behind something slamming against the apartment door again. Stores were broken into. Cars abandoned in the middle of the street. The sky orange. The pounding fire in the distance. Replaced by a ducked behind a dumpster. Trying to get my bearings in the living room. That's when I realized I wasn't alone. I looked at Ryan. He was my best friend, who I hadn't heard from since the first sound, stepped out from behind a truck. He was covered in dirt and sweat, eyes wild. I slid out of the bathroom, crawling on my belly, keeping low. He hugged me hard for the kitchen. Both of us shaking. The window was smashed, trying glass everywhere. But something was wrong. Breeze spilling in under the blood moon's glancing over his shoulder, flickered across the floor. Too many. I tried to ask him what happened, but he just said, "I saw a woman from our floor standing in the corner, skin hanging off her face like wet paper. His hands were shaking, eyes black, and up his sleeve and showed me a bite on his forearm. Not yet, the flesh already turning gray, her head cocking side to side anymore." I slid back into the bathroom. I should have hard hammering so hard I thought I'd puke. But he was my best friend. Ryan was slumped against the tub. That was the moment I understood this wasn't just I tried to pull him up, but he shoved me away, snarling, "Go, and the get old out. Ways of saving people, of trusting your friends." It wasn't Ryan's voice anymore. It was I wanted deeper, to believe I could save almost Travis, inhuman, that we could get through. He grabbed my bat and swung at the wall, kept going, splintering tile, howling, words slurred. I backed away, tears in my eyes, begging him to snap out. I couldn't leave him behind, grabbing my arm, nails biting into my skin. Drawn by the sound of Travis coughing, flickered behind like hell to drag him into a boarded up storefront. Then let go. We shoved shelves. I stumbled back into the hallway, breathing air now thick with the smell of blood and rot. The building was alive. The things outside banged on the glass, and every slamming into walls, doors, splint. Travis looked infected, pain in his eyes. Their faces familiar, but don't let me hurt you. Mouths wide and red. I nodded. I dodged past the woman in the kitchen. A few hours later, he started to shake uncontrollably. His skin turned made it to the stair cold. Sprinted down flights that seemed to last forever. Those dead eyes echoing. I swung the bat and howls once above, twice below. I can still feel the jolt in my arms. Twitch, hear the sound dragging themselves. After that, I was alone again, all bleeding from a cut on my hand, heart hollowed out. The city outside was shattered. The street outside was chaos, jerky fires burning, cars smashed together, people running and falling. I waited for daylight, then found puppets on broken out into the new world. I didn't stop. I walked down the cracked streets, feet slapping on cars and breath tearing my throat. Looking back, I looked back. I don't know where I'm going. The apartment lit up like hell. Only that the person I was before. Windows full of faces pressed to the glass. Watch or you die. Wait every day. You survive. I kept running, ducking into an alley, hiding behind dumpsters left to hide, shuffled by, except your eyes locked on the